of the greatest.
Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. was born on January 17, 1942, in Louisville, Kentucky. He was 12 when he was introduced to boxing by policeman and boxing coach Joe E. Martin. He soon began to train and participated in several amateur boxing matches.
Ali earned the right to represent his country at the 1960 Olympic Games in Rome, and this was when the world started to take note of Muhammad Ali.
Charming the world with his wit and his words. After the games, he and his mouth turned pro.
I'm only bold and cocky before and after fight.
Let me see you close your mouth and just keep it closed.
Well, you know that's impossible.
No, keep it closed.
You know that's impossible. I'm the greatest. And I'm knocking out all bones. And if you get too small, I'll knock you out.
After winning several Golden Gloves titles, Clay won the light heavyweight gold medal in the 1960 Summer Olympics.
As an 18-year-old in Rome in 1960, Cassius Clay won an Olympic gold medal and was the star of the athletes' village.
And of course, he ended up walking away with a gold medal. He beat a very good Polish fighter in the final. The European media, who hadn't really heard of this guy, Cassius Clay, suddenly became aware of this very, very stylish boxer. And 6 years after somebody stole his bike in Kentucky, he was the Olympic champion.
Shortly thereafter, he won his first professional fight against Fayetteville Police Chief Tunney Huntsacker, and Angelo Dundee became his trainer.
Came to get such a Roman name as that?
Well, as I understand, I'm Cassius Marcellus Clay VI, and my great-great-grandfather was a Kentucky slave, and he was named after some great Kentuckian. Well, Cassius Marcellus Clay is a great name in Kentucky.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cassius Marcellus Clay. He's young, he's handsome. They know it. He's a poet, a prophet, and many people believe he'll be the next heavyweight champion of the world.
Throughout the early 1960s, Clay began to attract attention with his frequent victories and regular knockouts. During this period, he defeated notable boxers such as Doug Jones, Henry Cooper, and Archie Moore. He also developed a fighting style that depended on speed, especially...
It was a 22-year-old by the name of Cassius Clay.
Liston, almost the first time he hits him. Could be one, perhaps two. I'll take one.
I look for Liston to win in 3 rounds. I like Liston in about 1 to 3 rounds.
He was perfect for television. He was the provocateur, which is what TV wanted.
It was clear from the very beginning that Clay was going to be a different kind of champion. Brash, outspoken.
I have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest.
The next year, he won a rematch with Liston by knockout and fought Floyd Patterson in the second defense of his title. He won several more bouts against opponents such as George Chuvalo, Brian London, and Carl Mildenberger. There were a few other notable fights during this time. These included the 1966 victory against Cleveland Big Cat Williams, which drew an indoor world record of over 35,000 fans. Another was his brutal fight against Ernie Terrell in 1967. In 1964, Clay had an unexpected victory against the current heavyweight champion Sonny Liston.
He's too ugly to be the world's champ. The world's champ should be pretty like me.
At 22, he became the youngest boxer to take the world heavyweight title from the reigning champ.
All of the odds were against him. He upset the odds makers. He won.
Nothing in Cassius Clay's past prepared him to become Muhammad Ali.
Cassius is not my name no more.
Officially Muhammad Ali now.
Muhammad Ali, right. Muhammad Ali. That's my name.
White America.
In 1964, Malcolm X spoke out in support of Muhammad Ali after the press began to attack him for joining the Nation of Islam.
Few knew that Ali had already come under the spell of Malcolm X and had decided to convert to Islam, to embrace the black Muslim movement.
Expressing confidence and pride in the clean image that Cassius represents. And I think to attack him, especially on religious grounds, would be most destructive to America's image abroad. My advice always to Brother Cassius is that he never do anything that will in any way tarnish or take away from his image as the heavyweight champion of the world. He is trying his best to live a clean life and project a clean image. But despite this, you find the press is constantly trying to paint him as something other than what he actually is.
You've been advising him as far as his religious affiliations are concerned.
As if he hadn't put enough pressure on himself, Cassius Clay decided to announce that morning he had joined the Black Muslim religion, an unpopular militant group.
Ticket sales started dropping to Muslims. They were thinking of possibly canceling the fight.
That was a polarizing moment, that Cassius Marcellus Clay was going to be Muhammad Ali. We'd never seen anything like that.
You know how great I am. I don't have to tell you about my strategy. Let my trainer tell you. Bodine, come here.
Clay announced his membership to the Nation of Islam and adopted the name Muhammad Ali. That same year, Ali refused to serve in the U.S. Army, and this asserted his status as a conscientious objector to the Vietnam War.
The Draft Lottery. A live report on tonight's picking of the birth dates for the draft.
Refused to be inducted into the United States Armed Forces.
I will not go 10,000 miles from here to help murder and kill another poor people simply to continue the domination of white slave masters over the darker people of the earth.
It is a war that he considers unjust, and his conscience will not allow him to do it. Now, certainly, I would endorse that, I would justify his action, and I would give him my strongest support in his doing it.
Ali was found guilty of refusing induction into the Army. He was subsequently stripped of his boxing title and had his professional license suspended.
Whatever the punishment, whatever the persecution is for standing up for my religious beliefs, even if it means facing machine gun fire that day, I will face it before denouncing Elijah Muhammad and the religion of Islam. I'm ready to die.
Say, well, the Vietnam War, everybody was against it. Wrong. 1965, 1966, 95% were in favor of that war. Nobody criticized the U.S.
If you were opposed to the war in Vietnam, they thought you were patriotic and cowardly draft dodgers.
When he refused induction into the armed forces on the grounds of his Muslim beliefs, he was not only attacked, he was convicted of draft evasion, stripped of his title, exiled from his sport for 3 years.
As you have just seen, the heavyweight champion of the world has rejected induction into the military service.
More than half of all African Americans opposed the war in Vietnam. Blacks were disproportionately dying in Vietnam.
What about your unpatriotic remarks that you made?
You said you were the people's champion?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that you're acting like a people's champion?
Yes, sir.
So you only have two kind of men, those who compromise and those who take a stand, see? And when you take a stand, you have to be ready to pay for it.
No matter what you think of Mr. Muhammad Ali's religion, you certainly have to admire his courage.
But his moral stand brought him into the civil rights movement. He befriended Martin Luther King Jr. despite their religious differences.
What did you discuss back in the hotel room?
Nothing, just friends, just like Khrushchev and Kennedy.
United against oppression and the war.
As Muhammad Ali has just said, we are all victims of the same system of oppression. And even though we may have different religious beliefs, this does not at all bring about a difference in terms of our concern.
Still brothers. Do you share the same concern that Muhammad has for his draft status?
Oh, I certainly do. My views on the draft are very clear. I'm against it.
Bodine, tell him, what are we going to do? You're going to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. Bodine, let's give him that little saying we used to say before each fight, you know? Float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble.
Punch he didn't see. Muhammad was floating around, and what happened? He made an angle on the guy
who looked indestructible. When Ali, after beating Frazier in a rematch, signed to fight Foreman in Kinshasa, Zaire in 1974, his friends and fans feared for his safety. Feared that Foreman might inflict lasting damage.
George Foreman is a dirty fighter. He is dirty. And I mean, by dirty, I don't mean morally. His style is dirty. It comes out with those big...
Ali spent weeks in the Zairian capital, ingratiating himself to the locals and learning how to say in their tongue, kill him.
Na ba boomaye. Na ku boomaye. Na ku boomaye. Na ku boomaye. Ali boomaye.
Muhammad got that Ali Boumaye chant going right from the get-go. He was the hero.
In the defining performance of his career, Ali responded to the roars of the crowd and rope-a-doped the stunned Foreman into submission.
Yes, sir.
When are you going into the movies, Ali? I don't go in the movies, brother, because the movies that the black people make are belittling. They're not good. The movies that they allow black people to make is a big trick bag, and the rest of them don't see it. So, movies like the title, Cotton Come to Harlem. Nigger Charlie, Cleopatra Jones, what's this judo pitch out now? Black judo pitcher called Judo Jones or something. Movies like all kind of movies showing prostitution, showing dope, Negroes in Cadillacs. They don't make movies. I'm not gonna make a movie until it's like Charlton Heston.
Okay, good. There's the end of that.
His first title bout came in 1964. Few thought he had much of a chance.
I predict tonight somebody will die at ringside from shock.
In 1964, the champion was Sonny Liston, and he was absolutely unbeatable. Cassius Clay was the 7-1 underdog. The New York Times sent me down there with these instructions. As soon as I got to Miami, rent a car, drive back and forth between the arena where the fight was going to be held and the nearest hospital, so I would waste no time following Cassius Clay into intensive care.
But Clay dominated the fight. He eluded Liston's fists, and by the 6th round, was hitting the champion virtually at will.
I think that they feel now that Clay have all the confidence he needs and go home and defeat Sonny.
When Liston didn't answer the bell for the 7th round, Clay became the heavyweight champion of the world.
That's the first time I noticed that he was slurring his words. And as we all know, that got worse and worse and worse and worse. I mean, it's been a terrible, terrible scene for years with Muhammad.
Ali's decline was as rapid as it was dramatic. He appeared in public less and less frequently as time went on. But despite his obvious difficulties, he never lost his spark.
I think he's an enormously interesting character. I think that he may have been the greatest fighter we've ever seen. I think that he's an amazing window on a historical period. As a human being that I knew and traveled with, I loved him. There were things about him I hated.
Oh, I was just telling the audience to be seated. We're back, and we thought we'd let the audience ask a couple of questions of our guests. So, is anybody...
Could you tell them, please ask some intelligent questions, ask some hard questions.
There's one now.
And some good questions.
Muhammad Ali was, the story goes, the greatest boxer of all time. But that's not why he'll be remembered as the greatest. Yeah, he was incredibly fast in the ring.
Not a heavyweight in the world fast enough to stop me.
He was so powerful, his biggest fights usually didn't go to 16 rounds. Ali's greatness is all about the other punches he threw.
I shook up the world! I shook up the world! I shook up the world!
He always made boxing about something much bigger than himself.
I'm gonna fight for the prestige, not for me, but to uplift my little brothers who are sleeping in concrete floors today in America.
For example, listen to the story about after he won the gold medal in the 1960 Olympics.
I took my gold medal, thought I'd invented something. I said, man, I know I'm going to get my people freedom there. I'm the champion of the whole world, Olympic champion. I know I can eat downtown now. And I went downtown that day, had my big old medal on, and went in the restaurant. So at that time, black things wasn't integrated. The black folks couldn't eat downtown. And I went downtown, I sat down, and I said, you know, a cup of coffee, hot dog. The lady said, we don't serve Negroes. I was so mad. I said, I don't eat them either. Just give me a couple of hamburgers.
So it might not be a surprise that an early mentor of his was
a black athlete or entertainer has a lot of influence. Some of them promote wrestling, some of them make movies. I'd like to do all I can to uplift the people morally and spiritually, and as far as loving self and sticking together and helping self before expecting others to help them and respect them when they don't respect themselves.
Well, having known you as long as I do, I don't know anybody else who's better qualified to do that than you. And I know you mean it.
After he retired, he even saved a man from jumping to his death in 1981.
The former heavyweight champion went to a window and reportedly yelled, "I'm your brother. I want to help you." Recognizing Ali, the man finally opened the fire escape door, and Ali approached him on the ledge.
He helped negotiate the release of 14 hostages in Iraq. He stood with Nelson Mandela against apartheid. He delivered medical supplies and food to kids all over the world. Spoke out about Islam after the devastating attacks of September 11th, even though he could barely speak.
I'm a Muslim. I've been a Muslim for 20 years. And I'm against killing, violence, and all Muslims are against it.
5 years later, after the September 11th terrorist attacks, Ali, still the world's most famous Muslim, made a plea for peace.
That really hurt me, because I know Islam is peace, and it's not violent. So the people that do these things make the religion as a whole look bad. I think that people should know the real truth about Islam. You know me, I'm a boxer. I'm called the greatest of all time. People recognize me for being a boxer and a man of truth. And I wouldn't be here representing Islam if it was really like the terrorists made it look. I think that all the people should know the truth and come to recognize the truth, because Islam is peace against killing, murder, and the terrorists and the people doing that in the name of Islam are wrong. And if I had a chance, I'd do something about it.
Ali was a fighter, but I don't think his muscles are really the part that we care about. And it's not what he cared most about either.
Boxing is just to introduce me to the struggle, but my main fight is for freedom and equality.